Certainly he can present a bill for such services. After all, we are not communists.
To announce the greatest military disaster in our long history.
When did I ever refuse it? Except one time.
The subject for a quick tutorial using both Photoshop and After Effects. I found this guy who's wearing kind of a nice tweed jacket, pair of jeans. It's got a little hanky in his jacket pocket, nice neckties, shirt, as you can see, with different collar design. So I think what we can do is something real quick just to show you how we can do a little fashion play with it. Pick the quick selection tool in Photoshop. You can use Control W or Command W if you're on a Mac. I usually just reach over to my toolbar and select it. And you can just drag them through parts of an image. It can actually detect differences in the pixel shading, and as you can see, it does a pretty good job on its own of selecting that jacket. And there are a few pieces you're going to have to go in and do a little cutting and matching with. I will normally get as much as I can on the edges, because when I get the other parts, sometimes it can be difficult to fit them together. You'll see what I mean here in just a moment. But that looks like a pretty good cut. I normally refine the edge. You can see then the outline of what we've gotten. I'm going to say, just for these purposes, let's say we'll decontaminate any of the color spillover and say OK. And you can see we got a jacket. The next thing we want to do, always go back to your background layer you started with, because what you have that begins to accumulate on top would be your cutouts. But you want to always cut out the new parts, of course, from the background you started with. Let's just go in real quickly and get, let's say, just real quickly, let's name this layer the jacket. Okay, highlighted our background again. And we're going to drag on the jeans. How about that? It does a pretty good job, as I mentioned earlier, on its own. I'm just going to bring that edge down just a little bit. You can always use the eraser tool to get more of it later, but that looks pretty good. We got a little bit of his hand. We'll just erase that off with the eraser, and let's just say for these purposes we got it. So there's some jeans and there's a jacket. Now, as you can see, as I mentioned before, sometimes you have to get a little more, because Photoshop will in fact interpret where there's, these kind of color spills over from like the blue in the jeans over into the green, or sometimes it's vice versa. You may not actually get enough to cover it all. If you have to ever go back, just grab your layer or the one that you'd want to redo, and just drag it down to your trash can. And you get rid of it, start again on your background layer, and have at it. And just to shorten the line then on this one, I've already actually gone forward and have done a cutout of this guy. So there's with the background in place, and you can see I've got all the pieces in place. I can take the shirt out, if you can see that, the tie, see what I mean? There's the jacket. I've got a separate hanky layer. There's the shirt collar. And what we can do, the plan is, here's his head even. I cut his head off. We can put a different head on him. And there are the jeans. I went in actually sometimes several passes, finally got all the pieces to fit and match up nicely. And sometimes you have to do that. Let's see. Yep. So anyway, we will, I'm going to just remove that one because we're not going to need the one I was showing you earlier. Well, why don't we just save this layer? We'll say File, Save. And when I see you in the next segment, I will have bought this picture into After Effects, and I'll show you how we can go in and play around with these layers and make them do something. Talk to you in just a bit. Okay, we are in After Effects. I simply bought that composition in, imported it as editable layer style into After Effects. I'll show you how to do that at some point. Pretty easy to do. And into a new composition, you can see that it has arrayed all of our layers just as they were, and labeled just as they were in Photoshop. So with this, you can see now that I have the background on. You can see now that I can toggle that shirt. See, we have a black alpha channel background. So it's basically just an empty background. And because of that, any layer that I turn off will become empty. I'll turn the tie off. Tie is empty. Turn the jacket off. Now he's invisible man, basically, from the waist up. There's his hanky, got that on another layer, his collar, and so forth. So what we can do then is, why don't we have some fun with it? If you were a fashion designer, you could then use a tool in this way to, let's say, add an effect. I like to do this one just because I don't know anything about fashion design. So effect, I go into color correction, and I will add a colorama. Now look at that. I love that. I'd love to have a jacket that looks like that. I will normally use the output cycle of the color wheel in Colorama, and because once again, I'm not so good at doing this, one thing I love to do is just use the presets just to play around. Let's give him a nice looking jacket. Look at that. So all I did was select the preset from the preset palette. This preset, someone nice person went in and actually set up on the color wheel these different hues and arrayed them in such a way that we could then color the jacket. You can actually go into these, change these colors out, and as you can see, we've added some highlights that are pretty amazing in that. Amazing maybe in a bad way, but whatever's the case, let's add, I'm just showing how that works. There's a yellow, there's a highlight across the shoulders is what that actually was. That one's called Skink. It doesn't look like the skinks that run around in my yard so much, but maybe. Sepia, that's kind of a nice one. And I do like the leather. Look at that. Nice looking one. Let's go to the hanky because that hanky doesn't look very good. I could actually add, through generate, a fill. He's got a red hanky. That just creates a solid color. It uses no texture from the original image. That's the only downside of that, but I mean, you can certainly, if that works for you, make it pretty much anything you want. I don't like fill so much though, so we'll leave that. On the shirt, we'll add another colorama. Let's say, look at that shirt. That is wild. I wish I had one of those. Earthenware. That probably doesn't work really well. Mossy green. Pretty crazy looking, huh? You see, I know a lot about fashion after all. On the jeans, let's give him something too with that. Colorama's at the top. Look at that. I love it. And we'll do the collar. The effect colorama. Look, I'll just go with the default on that one. Maybe deep ocean. Look at that. That guy is decked out. And this is the way you do it. I did yet another image the other day. I found this model. She had on this nice dress, and I decided to use Colorama to play with around with that as well. I really did like the print of that one. And you could do so much with it because it actually uses the once again, the pattern really well underneath and can really create some amazing design colors and everything. I didn't do the shoes in this case, but if you guys want, I can certainly go back and do that. There's the fire and smoke. Looks really nice too. And you know what? After Effects is so cool that you can actually add a particle layer. I use Trapcode's particular plugin, as it's called. And as you can see, I even set up a splash on this one. I'm just doing a RAM preview of it. But I can have them come from any one of the layers. I picked the dress layer in this case. And it's like raining bubbles or so and splashing off the bottom. So that's just for fun. Actually has nothing to do with this tutorial whatsoever. But it does demonstrate the power of After Effects in so many ways. So anyway, if you guys want, we'll get together sometime. We'll sit in front of the computer, let you get your hands on, and you can learn how to cut out and then go in and redesign colors and everything of dresses. So from here, guys, let me know what you think. I'd be happy to go in and do some more of these, and we can learn a lot of stuff and have fun doing it. Talk to you soon. Goodbye.
I wanna do just anything, and I don't